When standalone Sonic 3 released in February of '94, Launch Bass was, for all we knew, the final showdown. But in fact, it was more of a mid-season finale, and a few compositional decisions in the music subtly telegraphed this secret. We see a different spin on the bassline walk-up from Marble Garden. Launch Bass pares things down to only the major bus stops on this route, 158. Except when it tries to jump from 5 to 8, it overshoots the target. But the second attempt is a direct hit, earning return passage back down to the 1. That initial 9 is a cool bit of accidental spillage, a false start of sorts. Meanwhile, in this zone, the Death Egg launch itself is a misfire on the first attempt. And the song's long lead melody notes also hint that Launch Bass isn't the true end of this saga, specifically its use of the 4 in the last measures of the song. We often see the 4 resolve to the 3, or it might go upward to the 5, where it gets good footing to jump back down to the 1. But to just go from the 4 back home to the 1 is an inelegant shortcut, like something's missing in between. It feels abrupt, leaving you thinking, wait, that was it? But within this inelegance, a different type of beauty is found. This lack of finality in the 4 is an apt choice for a zone that's actually quite far from the journey's true conclusion. And as with other tracks by Jackson's team, the song uses audio samples such as the broken glass sound that's also in Carnival Night. Launch Bass even has lyrics that provide the player instructions on how to beat the level. In this regard, the human voice is used as just another instrument to be spammed. Which was an existing trend in the Genesis era, also occurring in the title theme for John Madden Football, which sliced and diced the word touchdown. Launch Bass's Go sample comes from the Run DMC song Peter Piper. And the 1986 album that it came from also featured the classic It's Tricky, which years later would be repurposed as the main theme of 2001 snowboarding game SSX Tricky. But the way Launch Bass ends and loops back to the start is through the use of abrupt silence. This hasty exit encapsulates how some players felt upon beating the game. Only 6 zones? Suddenly we're done? TV off? The silence lasts 1.25 seconds, which in a Sonic game feels like forever. Who'd have guessed Launch Bass's music would find itself in company with Hank Schrader's Ringtone? Then again, Breaking Bad does have not 1 but 3 episodes where a main character plays a Sonic game.
Now, how are you doing all those back? Tell me.
Chico.
Now, Launch Bass and the other Jackson tracks are excellent and fitting, but in comparison to the rest of the soundtrack, they don't have as much chordal motion, and they're a bit more melodically repetitive. Even more so because the Act 2 remixes are so minimally different. The silver lining is that this frees up an opportunity to take a look at
this.
Michael Jackson's team completed more than 40 tracks for Sonic 3, and 10 of them made it into the Genesis release in '94. Then, for the '97 Sonic & Knuckles collection on PC, all 10 tracks were replaced with different compositions. But most of us had no knowledge of these alternate songs until 2006, when QJimbo posted his flagship YouTube video on the history of secrets surrounding Sonic 3's music. At that time, the prevailing theory was that, in order to hide Jackson's involvement, Sega threw together some replacement tracks that ultimately felt like generic low-quality knockoffs, and these songs became a bit of a laughingstock within the Sonic fanbase. It wasn't until as late as 2019 that saw the discovery of the Sonic 3 prototype dated November 3rd of '93, a few months before the game's release. Shockingly, this prototype contained the same compositions as the '97 PC collection, meaning those PC songs weren't hasty replacements, but were actually the original themes for these zones, while Jackson's compositions were the replacements. Hearing them now on the Genesis sound chip gave rise to a new wave of positive regard for these songs. Turned out they are fantastic compositions, but just suffered from a lack of production value. Until now. Perhaps Sega didn't use Proto Launch Bass in the Genesis release because it's a bit too sunny and bright for a final zone. Sure, maybe the intro to Act 1 kinda has a march into battle type of feel. But after that, and especially in Act 2, things get more cheerful, like we're throwing a Caribbean dance party. And Proto Launch Bass has affection for the art of the key change, which you don't see a lot in Sonic 3. In the Genesis soundtrack, 83% of the level themes are written in a single key, and the songs that do change key have just a single key change each. In walks Proto Launch Bass. If we map out the sections in both acts and assign each key a unique hue, we find there's quite the cacophony of color. Of course, every song is written in a certain key, which involves designating a specific note as the 1 or the tonic, that note of resolution that feels like we've come back to home base. 1 ton is an easy way to remember this because it rhymes and it's heavy. Then, all the other notes in the scale are determined by their relative location to the tonic. So in a key change, it's like you write a new constitution in the middle of the song. You pick a new note to serve as the tonic, and the rest of the scale follows in kind. You can even change from a minor key to a major key, which is exactly what Marble Garden does. But you can't just switch to any key at any time. If done poorly, it can be jarring and disorienting. Proto Launch Bass changes key in every section, and this ambition could have led to a disjointed mess, except the composer used a reliable technique to minimize a potentially messy distraction. The transition from section A to B has the song move from E-flat major to B-flat major. Some might not even notice that a key change even occurred. Here's why these two keys were a good choice for a mid-song change. If you consider the notes of the old key compared to the new key, it's true that the tonic home bass notes are far away from each other. But notice how 6 out of 7 notes occur in both scales. Since they have so much shared DNA, moving between the keys is much easier and natural sounding. See how the old key has 3 of these little symbols and the new key has 2? Well, 3 minus 2 is 1, and the lower that number is, the easier it is to key change, because it indicates that the new key only has one new note that wasn't found in the old key. Proto Launch Bass disguises this key change by avoiding that one note for a bit, since that note is the clear giveaway that we're forging into new territory. Instead, it uses chords built on the notes common to both keys, keeping the new note a secret until 4 measures after the key change. This softens the impact of the key change, resulting in a progression that sounds perfectly natural. This way, the composer can take the listener on a journey of much wider possibilities, but in a way that's not disorienting or overwhelming. The song also uses the bass line during key changes for some impressive acrobatics that play with listener expectations about where the bass notes should land. Act 1 starts with a chord sequence that alternates between 1 and flat 7 and ending with a 5. For the 2 alternating chords, it starts with the 1 chord, and then the flat 7. which in sequence sounds like this. Notice that the bass notes are in root position underneath the root of each triad, which is entirely conventional. Now, Act 2 uses these same chords, but the bass throws us a curveball. Instead of that 1 flat 7, it throws us a 6 and then a flat 7. See how that 6 is not underneath the root? This subversion of expectation throws us off balance, as if the tectonic plates beneath us are shaking due to the thunderous launch of the Death Egg. This experimental game of bass whack-a-mole is awesome, and it's similar to Chrome Gadget in that way. And it sheds light on why Sega didn't use this song for the standalone Genesis release of Sonic 3 because it's just too much tomfoolery for a final confrontation. A real final showdown has a bass line that's brutal and direct, like Death Egg, which kicks you in the chin with the 1 and 3, two strong pillars of the one minor triad. But that's not all. Proto Launch Bass's key changes provide a springboard for the bass to pull off some mathematical gymnastics. The song first plays the chords as we just heard them, but then immediately key changes to play the same chords a full step lower. Here's the start of the first. Then the lower key change sequence. The big feat involves what the bass is doing at the moment of this key change. The first section's bass ends on the 5, and then at the moment of the key change, the key shifts down a step. So that same note that was the 5 a moment ago actually becomes the 6. And we directly witness this change because the note continuously plays before, during, and after it jumps through the key change portal. It's the exact same note, which is G, with a frequency of about 49 Hz, but it serves a different function in this new environment, and we witness it jump through the portal to switch dimensions without breaking eye contact. It calls to mind supermodel Derek Zoolander, who showed off his versatility in his capstone calendar photo shoot. And the climax of Proto Launch Bass perfectly sets the stage for the moment of the Death Egg's liftoff. This downward bass line descends like a rocket launch countdown, followed by the lead melody launching up toward the sky, straining and laboring to exit the stratosphere before sputtering out and crash landing on the 1. This countdown and liftoff is quite the crescendo. And Act 2 reworks it with Latin flair. Which leaves the question of why Sega resurrected Proto Launch Bass for the PC release. Many point to the audio samples in Jackson's Launch Bass as impossible to recreate in a MIDI sound chip. But also, the biggest engine of Jackson's Launch Bass is its percussive edge, the various whacks, thwaps, and pops in the drum beats that get a stylish groove going. It's distinctive. Strip away that aspect and you're left with not much else, especially in Act 2 when a lot of the instruments are muted.